Hey, peace. This is Jahari Ashe. I'm all about life force rejuvenation and paradigm shifts. And I'm here with my sister from Hampton University, um, flute player. Or you play piccolo also? I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember. Yes, piccolo player, Sigma Alpha Iota. So we were in marching band together, and we were also frat sisters. And I'm actually not sure what you're doing now, but you're absolutely talented, beautiful, amazing. And on top of all of that, you are the only hoodoo practitioner that I know. And so I found out that it's Hoodoo Heritage Month. And I said, well, let me give you a call. I haven't talked to you in years. And I would love to just, you know, let you express kind of like what got you into hoodoo, what hoodoo means to you, and but also like the how do you put that? I don't want to say subconscious, but it's kind of something. Do you feel like you can't really talk about your practice like that, or like you don't always have opportunities to really express it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely think I don't hide it necessarily, but I'm also not out here like, hey, I practice hoodoo. I'm not doing that either, especially living like in the Bible Belt. I live in North Carolina. So I definitely don't like, I guess, not proudly, I shouldn't say that. I don't express it so grandly. It's just like, if you ask me, I'll tell you type of thing.
And what are people's normal reaction to when you tell them, I'm a hoodoo practitioner or I practice hoodoo?
I've gotten probably all reactions. I've gotten the devil worshiper reaction a lot of times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh, God.
got- I've gotten a lot of times. Some people I get like, oh, I never heard of that. That's kind of interesting. Explain it more. I've gotten that's interesting. Let me go look it up. I've gotten that's interesting. Is it like voodoo?
Mm.
Like I've gotten, I guess those would be like more like positive like reactions, and then I've gotten some people like, oh, I practice too, or I know what you practice, so I think that's cool. But more often than most is probably I get negative reactions, which is probably why I don't say it out loudly. I only say it if you ask.
Is it usually like older generations or is it people our age as well?
No, it's people our age definitely.
Oh, snap. Oh, snap.
And I think it's like I said, because I live further in the South, in North Carolina. Like I live in Charlotte, so that's like I live like 5 minutes from like the South Carolina border. So I'm like pretty far south. So I think um, just the Southern way of life and how, Christianity is very heavy in the Black community and especially in the South. So I just think people, they're ignorant to what they don't know, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
How did you become, enlightened to the practice and everything? Oh, like, do people even ask you that? Like, what made you, get into hoodoo?
Um, I don't think anybody's ever asked me.
Really?
Maybe one person might have asked me, maybe not like that direct, but I think I end up just explaining like, this wasn't working and this is how I got here and da da da. I don't think ever like really asked me, but I didn't grow up in the church. My parents were, to be honest, I don't even know what to call my parents.
Okay.
like like younger, I used to say my parents were like agnostic because I didn't know any other word to say because that made the most sense. They kind of, I think they kind of took beliefs and practices from like different cultures, um, more heavily like maybe like Native American influences and African Egyptian influences. Um, like when we would pray, like when I was little, like my mother and my father were like, we're praying to the universe, so that's or they would kind of interchange it with God, but it was mostly universe. So that's how like I grew up. Um, what's crazy is both of my parents did grow up in the church, and
Okay.
my dad was a deacon at some point.
A
at his
deacon.
Yeah.
What state was this? Was this North Carolina as well?
Oh no, I'm from Maryland, the
Oh yeah,
DMV.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
my parents grew up in Southeast DC.
Okay.
Um, so my dad was a deacon back in DC, like somewhere in like maybe like the 70s, early 80s,
Oh,
some. But yeah, both of my parents grew up in the church, but then somehow they both got out of it, and they both end up going on this trip to Egypt. I think like a year apart
okay.
before they met, which was kind of crazy. It was the same trip by the same group of people, but they just went like a year apart. So I guess they both kind of got like enlightened, like they wanted to know more than other than like Christianity. And then I think after they came back from the trip from Egypt, that's when they kind of, I guess, got out of the church and started believing like what they believed and what they thought. And then I think like maybe a year after that, that's when both of my parents met. So that's how they raised me. Um, they always they never told me to not say that I wasn't, Christian, but they were just like, look, they were really honest with me. So they were like, you can say it, but you might get judged by it. And this is like the 90s, early 2000s.
Wow.
So it was a different time. And
Definitely.
so they was just like, yeah, like, if you say it, you might get a little looks, you might get a dirty look, you might, be considered a black sheep. So if you don't want to say, you just want to, go around just having people assume that you are, that's fine. We understand it, but it's your choice. Um, so I think I was just like saying I was agnostic up until like 2012, I think.
Wow.
And and I was, yeah, I'm gonna say I did go to Christianity for like 6 months. I'm not gonna tell the reason why, but I
Okay.
I did go for 6 months. We'll do it for 6 months. It was under the influence of somebody else, is why I end up going. At the time, it was what was needed. Um, I appreciated it for what it was, and I learned a lot of things. I I cried, I laughed, I smiled. But ultimately, it was, I guess, what made me like leave. One, yes, it was under the influence of somebody else, but I wanted, just to see, because I grew up, one way your whole life. And then, you get to college and, it's other influence. And it's like, well, maybe, I should change my mind or something like that. But it, it wasn't a bad 6 months. It definitely helped me and like solidify like who I am as a person. Um, I did get baptized too.
Wow.
Um, yeah,
But
I
that's
got. Hmm?
yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I got baptized October 6th, 2013. Um,
Wow. Because
yeah,
I'm thinking where I was 2013 with you. So anyway, but anyway, go on.
yeah, and like I said, it was a good experience. Like I cried. It definitely like opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. Um, and I was, like I said, I stayed in it for about 6 months. I ended up leaving because people are people, you know. Um,
Okay.
people are. It was just so like, to be honest, it was just really really judgy. Like, and I had heard that church people are judgy, and it's not like I hadn't seen it, but I guess to like be in it, like fully engrossed in it, and I was just kind of just like, I can't do this. And
Mm.
like, you know, just the feeling of like well, if you don't do this, like you don't think this certain way, if you don't believe this certain way, that you're gonna end up going to like this horrible place. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. Like I can't like I literally can't like justify that making sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think just because you don't believe in a certain thing that you're just gonna go to a bad place if you're not a bad person. I just that just doesn't make any sense to me. So um but like I said, it was definitely like an eye-opening experience. Like my baptism was beautiful. Like that was a beautiful day. That was a really, really beautiful day. I definitely felt renewed, fresh, like all the things I guess you're supposed to feel that day.
Yeah.
Um, but like I said, ultimately a couple months later, I was just like, this was what I needed at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
It was a stepping stone and what I guess like got me in to hoodoo eventually later, because I guess I didn't really start practicing hoodoo until like 2019, I want to say.
2019.
Yeah, like fully, I guess, like saying like this is what I'm practicing. So I guess like that'll be like a segue. So like once um I don't even remember like how I got no, yes I do. So I was like on Instagram, like just looking, scrolling on Instagram, looking at videos, and it was like this Netflix show called Just the Witch. I forgot the Spanish because it's definitely a Spanish show. But I've always been into like supernatural stuff. Like supernatural stuff has happened to me before, so
Oh
I've
wow.
always been like engrossed in it. So it doesn't really like scare me or anything like that. So I was just like, oh, let me go watch this show, and I end up finding a podcast. Is Jujube. And she was like talking about the podcast, and then she ended up talking about like how she practices hoodoo. And so I started listening to this podcast, and I was like, like this kind of sounds like something like that I kind of like already do, but like I didn't know I was doing. So I like end up listening to her podcast, like several episodes, and I just started like doing research, started like looking at YouTube videos. Um, Started just like asking around like if anybody like knew stuff about it, and just by doing the research I was just like, okay, like this seems like what I'm already doing now, but there's like a word for it.
Mm.
um like I every time somebody may ask me like, oh well, what is hoodoo, and like that sounds like the devil, I'm just like, it's not. Like America has demonized African traditional religions, and I hate it. Like it's terrible. But I say to people who are like more open minded, I'm like, black people of the United States who primarily live in the South, like
Mm.
black people practice hoodoo and they don't know it. Like
Wow.
collard greens and black eyed peas and shit on New Year's, like that's a hoodoo practice. Um, Telling a man to walk through your front door on New Year's, that's a hoodoo practice. Leaving libations at somebody's grave site or a place where they got shot or like stuff like that. All hoodoo practices, all stuff that was developed during slavery when our ancestors were enslaved and they couldn't practice what they had came over with from Africa, so they adapted it to Christianity practices, and trying to hide it from the slave enslavers. And I say Christianity and hoodoo does go hand in hand, which is why I still to this day, I mean, I never really had an issue going to church or anything like that. Like I listen to gospel music all the time. It's just like being, I guess, like engrossed in it because I know people aren't genuine, and some of the messiest people can be in the church. This is why I will separate myself from it. But Christianity and hoodoo go hand in hand. Like your grandma putting oil on your forehead, your grandma praying over you, your grandma using certain scriptures, like, oh, you need to say this scripture so you know you can get this job tomorrow. All
Mhm.
all of that is hoodoo. All of it is.
So have you been able to express that to other people? And do they, what do they think when you say that? Like that Christianity and hoodoo are hand in hand, you know?
Some people some people would be like, well, that kind of makes sense. Like I never really knew why we did, XYZ, like the collard greens thing on
Yeah.
New Black Eyed Peas, and you got to have the pork and stuff like that. Or don't wash clothes, on New Year's, or you wash your blessings away, all that stuff. They're like, yeah, it kind of makes sense because where is it coming from? Like, how do all these Black people who don't live with each other practice the same thing? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Now the herbs. Were you working with herbs before you knew anything about hoodoo as well?
yes. So, like I said, growing up, um, I feel like my parents practiced some form of hoodoo, but like I said, my parents just kind of like were all over the place.
Okay.
Over the place. But my mom was like really into like plants and herbs and stuff and like natural living. So like, more times than once we didn't take over the counter drugs or anything like that. So my mom would like give me like certain plants that she knew would help me. Or so my mom's side of the family is from South Carolina. So like I stuff like my great aunt saying, oh yeah, put moss on the trees in your shoe if you get arthritis, or rub this on your hands, or oregano plants are good for like catching the cold, or like even like hot toddies. um
Mm-hmm. I
yeah,
love
like
your hot toddy.
yeah. It helps. And I've definitely always like had herbs around here, plants. Since I've started practicing, I've kind of like gotten into it more. Like I have books on like what herbs can help for different things. And I've been trying to grow some, but North Carolina weather is like crazy. So sometimes my plants die, sometimes they come back. But I definitely am like into like the herbs. And if I don't have to use like over the counter medicine, I won't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what would you like people to really understand about hoodoo? But you covered a lot already that people already practice it and everything, and it's really a part of our tradition as Black people in America. But is there something outside of that that you wish people understood more about it?
I think people as a whole, like even including myself, we have to like decolonize our minds and stop thinking that everything that's not totally the norm in
Mm-hmm.
society evil, or it's bad, or things like that. I feel like once we kind of like just open, if we would open our minds to just more than like what we're introduced to as like children and family. And it's hard to get out of that. Like I said, like even for me, like just when I was little, like seeing like, oh, hearing the word voodoo, I automatically associated it with like evil stuff, because that's what I saw on TV, and that's what they produce in the media. But you just kind of like have to break out of it, like just be open to like things like that can be different than what you're taught.
Mm-hmm. Now, if somebody comes in and asks you about sacrifices or something like that, or maybe they think voodoo dolls are involved in hoodoo as well, what would you say to that? Or what type of enlightenment would you give on that, I guess, on that perspective?
um One, I would say that before anybody, like hoodoo and voodoo are two different things. They're two different practices. That's number one. And voodoo is definitely more of like a religion. And I don't practice, but I know people that do. But that's one thing I would say, like they're not the same. Two, sacrifices, like people, sacrifice chickens and goats and da 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 da. I'm not gonna lie, that is also a part of it, but it's also, you have to really know what you're doing. You got to know what
Do
you're doing.
things backfire?
Hmm?
Do things backfire?
Yes, definitely things can backfire. Like I
Oh,
said, um, the deeper you get into hoodoo, there are, I guess, things that people are like, oh my God, like, there's blood involved, it's all about transmuting energy and controlling energy and all those things. So I wouldn't say it's bad or good, but you have to be careful with the energy that whatever energy you're working with. Like, energy can have a positive side, energy can have a negative side, but it's all still energy. So you just have to know what you're doing, and seek guidance from elders, and really think about what you're think about what you're trying to do and what you're doing. um is there, like, I guess, quote unquote, like, spell work in hoodoo? Yes, it can be. If that's what you want to do, it can be. um Using certain herbs or saying certain um Bible quotes, or just meditating and manifesting what you want to do, what you're trying to accomplish. Like, all those things are valid. That's what they say, be careful how you speak to yourself, what you say, because you're still saying energy, believing energy. So you just gotta know what you're doing, and, like I said, seek elders and be careful, because I mean, in life you have to be careful. So with everything that you do, you should be.
do you think your practice has made you more intentional in life?
Yeah, it definitely made me more intentional. Once I started paying attention to, things like, what I'm saying about myself, what I'm thinking. And everybody has faults, because I'm not perfect. Sometimes I still be like, yo, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel stupid. I feel crazy. And it's a process. I will also say, um, I guess, for anybody either trying to get into hoodoo or want to understand it more, hoodoo also is very engraved in your ancestors and who was in your family. Like, hoodoo is about, I know hoodoo for me, when I started, like, it definitely made me go back and ask, like, my aunts and um my family members, like, who was on our side, and how far back do we have our lineage, and where were people born and stuff like that. Because when you get in, like, fully engraved into hoodoo, or even just start calling out, they say, I guess, to start, just get you a candle, a white little cloth, and some water, and pray.
Mm.
That's it. Pray to your ancestors, pray to people that you know in your family that have passed away. Like, for me, it was really helpful because my mom had passed away
I didn't,
um
wow.
when I was 18, right, my freshman year at Hampton.
Uh,
So when I got into hoodoo, like, I never really went to therapy, which I definitely should have. I mean, I went later, but, like, when it was happening, when my mom had passed, I didn't go to therapy for it. I just kind of, like, was rolling with the punches, so to say. So I didn't really, like, talk about it. So, like, when I started practicing hoodoo back in 2019, I was also simultaneously going to therapy. So I was, like, trying to, like, open up about, like, my mother's death and how it affected me and stuff. And when I figured, they were just like, yeah, how to start, get you a candle, get you some water, and get you a white cloth, and just sit at, your altar or whatever, and pray and talk to the people that aren't here anymore. So it really got me talking to, like, my mom or whatever. So that was, like, therapeutic. And just, really really trying to figure out and understand your family that either has passed on or um, that aren't here anymore, and creating that relationship with them to get, what you were trying to accomplish in life.
Yeah, definitely. What? Mm. First of all, my condolences because I didn't know that. And we was just marching. I had no idea. But everybody, there's so much going on in college.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But then also, if you're okay with sharing, what would you feel has been is transcendental the right word? Like maybe the most, uh, I don't want to say out of body, because I don't know, everybody meditates differently, or things happen differently for everybody with their candles or praying or meditation. But what would you feel was an experience for you that was really like, whoa, like I love what I'm doing. Um, I love this spiritual experience I just had. And this has really just been like a whole paradigm shift for me and where I'm going in my life. Like, just like, what would you call that? Like a really, like, not crazy experience, but significant experience. There we go, significant.
Um, so the same time I started practicing hoodoo, I had got fired from my job. Um,
Okay.
so that was like a weird experience because I never got fired before, and I was just kind of like, so what do I do now? Um, and I was out of a job for like almost like 4 months. Like it was a little bit of time. And so, and I had just started. So like I was doing all this research, and like I said, they tell you to start, like I said, get you a candle, get you some water, get you a white cloth, and just pray about it. So like I would just like be sitting at my altar, and there's no, I mean, some people will say there's a right and a wrong way to talk to your ancestors, but for me, I think it's supposed to be your family. It is your family. So I'm gonna talk to my family how I talk to my family. So I'm like, yo, mom, like, I don't know, I don't know what to do. Like, I lost my job. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the next steps are. And it wasn't like I was like hearing, like somebody talk to me like, oh, I should, like, you need to did it. I wasn't hearing anything, but it's like I felt something. Like I felt like somebody was listening to me. Um, and then also, in hoodoo, like you'll have an altar or whatever. Like I said, your basic altar is just a white cloth, a candle, and some water. But they tell you to give offerings to your ancestors, so just food, whatever your ancestors like, um, whether it was like collard greens or an apple or fruit. Some really, I know what works for my family is liquor, specifically brown
I love
liquor.
love liquor.
um, like my mom used to drink Hennessy, so
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
So like at my altar, I would leave, and my mom like really loved fruit, so I would leave like some piece of fruit, and I would put like dark liquor. I'll put Hennessy on the altar, and I'll leave it there for a night, and then I'll just replenish it every day, and but I didn't start doing that like immediately. So like I lost my job in March. I got my next job in June, so maybe like around like May, like the end of April going into May was when I really like, I guess, started like taking it, like going to my altar seriously. Cause like I said, nobody's perfect. And I was just kind of like, I was just starting off, I'm like, I feel crazy sitting at this altar talking to myself. I don't even know if this shit is working. Um,
And how
but
long was
hmm,
how long was this? Like, this is a month in, a weekend? Do you remember?
um, it was like maybe like a month and a half in. Like I had
Oh,
been, and then I was just like, I don't even know if this shit is working. So I kind of had stopped. But then like I said, around like April, the end of April going to May, I was like, look, this feels like I'm supposed to be doing this. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna have to like get over the fact that I feel crazy like talking to myself at this altar. And so once I started like giving the offerings and, you know, just talking, because at first I literally was just talking to my mom because I didn't really feel comfortable talking to anybody else that had passed. Because of course, you know, it's my mom. So I
Mm-hmm.
I was giving the offerings, and then I was, you know, going on these interviews, and I think I did it consistently for like maybe like a week or so. No, maybe like 2 weeks or so. And a job that I was at for like 4 years. I just recently changed up, but a job that I was at for 4 years, they had hit me back and they were just like, yeah, you know, we loved you, da 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 da, and we want to offer you the job. And I was like, I don't know if you know, it's just a coincidence, but I just feel like that was my mom helping me because I was like, I was struggling. Like, I was struggling because I was like, I was working at a part time job and like trying to foot my expensive ass apartment or whatever. And it was just crazy. But I felt in my heart that what I was doing, like, my mom was like helping me like during that process.
You feel like you were helping your mom on her side by giving her the offerings and everything?
Yeah, no, they definitely say, you know, on the other side or, you know, whatever, wherever their energy lies, you know, those offerings do help them like on that side, you know, to make things happen for you. So I definitely think I was, you know, helping her as well.
Wow, wow. So, what would you so okay, you start with the white cloth. It sounds like you start with two different altars, your ancestor altar and then your, I don't know what you call it, like basic altar or prayer altar with the white cloth and the white candle, or were you able to merge the two?
No, you starting off, your ancestor altar and your, I guess like, you know, regular print can be the same thing.
Okay.
So yeah, so just whatever, you know, if you can, like I said, because some people, you know, depending on where you are, if you're in a dorm or whatever, you don't want to just like have, you know, your altar hanging out. You can either just get a candle or just a glass of water. Water is very powerful and fire is very powerful candle. So, and even like just yourself and your body, like if you feel like you're uncomfortable or whatever space that you're in that you can't just openly, because you know I have an apartment, so I live by myself, so you know I
Okay.
have it out anyway. But um, just like if you're in an environment where you feel like you can't do it openly, I say just pray to yourself or just get a glass of water and speak whatever you need to speak into that water.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and I mean, do you meet a lot of people who are in the broom closet? You know?
I've met a couple of people. I have. I don't know if he knows what hoodoo is. I don't know necessarily. I would say he practices it, but he's
Okay.
adjacent. It's,
Adjacent.
yeah,
Okay,
he kind of
cool.
is where I was like growing up. Like, yeah, I be doing all this stuff, but I don't really like have a name for it. But he understands it, and he does like do herbs and stuff. He's like one of like my closest friends. So, but he doesn't like openly say it either. It's just kind of like one day we were just like, I think talking about something. I don't know how it came up, and then I was like, "Oh well, you know this," and he was like, "Oh well, you know my grandmother," and I was like, "Oh, okay."
You're able to kind of read between the lines too, and yeah.
Yeah,
So how important would you say it is for practitioners to have support or have other people, you know, who are practicing that they can talk to and stuff like that?
I think it's very important. Community is important, especially in hoodoo, because I think it hoodoo started with community, like slaves getting together to practice what they used to practice in Africa, so you know they could survive. So I definitely community is definitely important. I feel like you need at least one person to talk to about it at least. I have a I have like a couple of friends that like aren't here in Charlotte, but we have like a group meal, whatever, that we'll like talk about stuff related to hoodoo or you know what's going on. Like I have friends that are like, you know, do tarot readings and that are like spiritually intuitive. Um, but community is definitely important because you don't want to feel like you're by yourself because it can get lonely. Life can get lonely. So I definitely feel like community is like very, 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 very important.
And what would you say to all the people starting out who might be having a hard time with the judgment and, just all the things that come when you first come out the broom closet or or
Um,
whatever it is.
Honestly, you have to be ready to not ready for the judgment, but ready for the judgment.
Mhm.
Um, it's just kind of it's unfortunately the times that we're living in and just how society has shaped, what to believe in. So like you got to be ready to just kind of like bite the bullet, like kind of going you kind of just got to deal with it. Like it's going to be hard, and like I said, you're going to get those like you're a devil worshiper and you're going to go to hell, and you're definitely going to get that. You're going to get it. You just got to, I say, um if you tell people about it and their initial reaction is like negative and they don't come back, to try to, say like, hey, well, can you explain it to me, blah blah blah, then those people weren't meant to be in your life anyway. So you dodged a bullet in my eyes. um you like, yeah, like I said, I would just say you just have to like have tough skin. You can cry about it when you get in the house because I be crying about it too. I tell people all the time I'm a bucket of water. I'm a Cancer. Um, I talk with my feelings. Like you can definitely see how I'm feeling because I show it on my face. I don't try to hide it. Um, so you can cry about it later, but when you're faced with it, you're just gonna have to like roll with the punches because that's just how society is right now.
So it's a level of acceptance of yourself, I guess, and
Yeah, like I'm ready to be quote unquote like the black sheep. Like I
oh
think,
yeah. Wow, ready to be the black sheep.
yeah, I think it was easier for me to kind of like transition because of how I grew up because I didn't grow up Christian, so people kind of thought like she's weird anyway.
Okay.
So I kind of always had that, oh, she's a black sheep, she's kind of weird, she's quiet. We don't really know what to think or say about her. So I think for me it was a lot easier. Um to kind of just be like, well, I mean, people do it anyway, so it's whatever. But yeah, just be ready for acceptance. Like it's not easy. Some of the parts are easy, like once you find community and once you find people that are accepting of you and my cat's are in the background. Once you find people who are like accepting of you and like will see you for who you are, then it definitely gets easier. But like initially, and you start saying like, "Oh yeah, I practice hoodoo," and da 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 da, you're gonna get looks, you're gonna get stares, you're gonna get people who want to disassociate themselves from you because I've definitely had that happen to me. Um,
Mm,
so,
wow.
and I will say, dating is hard too.
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't even think about that with dating.
Yeah,
Oh,
is very
snap.
dating is very very hard. Like I said, especially being in like the South and being in the Bible Belt, it's hard. It's definitely
Yeah.
hard.
Wait, so because I'm just curious now, like, does religion and spirituality come up on the first date? Like,
So for me, what I've done in the past, I be telling people up front because I don't
okay, seriously.
surprises. I don't want you to be like, well, you ain't tell me that. Like, no, I told you the first time we talked, I'm
Yeah.
going to bring it up. Um, and like I said, I I don't mind dating people of other religions. I have done it. I've dated two PKs.
Hey. What's a PK? Oh, preacher kid?
Yes.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, I
What?
do preach
Oh,
that
that's
that. So
oh wow.
and like I said, for me, I don't mind it, especially because I know Christianity and hoodoo goes hand in hand. However, um, I am very I'm not gonna say I'm very cautious. I don't if you tell me you're a peak, I'll be like, nah, I'm
Nah,
not.
that
Because the thing is, and then you can't fault anybody for like how they grew up and da 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 da.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
But the further you are into, at least for Christianity, um, the further you're into it, like the deeper you're into it, it's very hard to get out of that mindset that everything else is not of God. It's very hard to get
Mm.
out of, no matter how much you love or like the person. Um, I know in my last relationship,
Oh,
he was a PK and he was living like deep in the South, like further than North Carolina. He was living deep in the South. And he was a great guy. We had a really great relationship. But at the end of the day, that religion stuff, like it's always gonna come up. And I did tell him, when I first met him, I did, but I wasn't practicing um officially when we first started dating.
oh.
Yeah, I didn't officially start practicing until like towards the end of our relationship. And it definitely, once I kind of like said it out loud, um, it definitely kind of like it changed a few things because like we wanted to have kids together and all the stuff. So then it comes down to, well, what are we going to teach our kids? Like, are we going to teach them Christianity? Are we going to teach them both? And like for me, I'm all like, yeah, let's teach it, let's do it both. Like, that's fine. Let's do it both. But you people can say, yeah, we're gonna do it both, but then like, do you really mean that? Like,
Hey.
are you just saying it because you want to make me happy? You don't want to cause a argument. And like I said, no, no shade on him. He was a really good guy or whatever. But that was one of the things of our like downfall, because once you're so immersed in stuff, and especially because now like I'm 31, so I'm in my 30s. People are trying, like, we're trying to have a family. I'm trying to date intentionally. I'm trying to get married to somebody. And so all those things matter. So if you can't be open to that compromise, then you know it is what it is. I feel like I'm very compromised. Like I said, I'll go to church with you. I have gospel songs on my iPhone that I listen to all the time. My grandmother was very, very deep. I have a lot of, at least on my dad's side, my grandmother was very much so deep into the church. I have aunts that are deaconesses and preachers and all types of things. So, like I said, I'll go and I'll support you, but don't try to, I guess, hello.
Oh, are we back? Hello?
Oh, there we go. I don't know what
Oh,
happened.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on with mine too. I don't know what's going on with mine, but it's okay. We could just podcast style. Uh, I think you were saying like don't try to reconvert you or convert you or something. Or, I'm not sure.
Try to convert me. Like I've like I tell people, like I've been Christian. I was baptized. I did the whole nines. Like it just wasn't for me. Basically just strictly off of the like, if I don't believe this, I'm going to hell. I don't. That doesn't make sense to me. You can't make that make sense to me. Like you can't. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
um, but yeah, like I said, with dating, I tell people up front and I let them, decide what they want to do with that information. I find that people who I guess like they'll say they're a Christian but they don't, go to church every Sunday. I find those people are more like open to other things
Mm,
and like
yeah.
those experiences where I have one particular experience and like we're still like really good friends now. I had told him the first day he came to my house, I was like, oh yeah, I practice hoodoo, da 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 da. And I was actually like very scared to tell him that because I was like, I really like him. Like he's really cool. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he like gets his phone out and then he like starts typing into Google, like, what is hoodoo, da 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 da. And I was like, and I'm, you looking this up? And he was like, well, yeah, like I don't know what it is. So I'm about to look it up. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then like he looked it up, like found like a general definition. He was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's really cool. And then like that was it. Like, and I didn't get like the oh my god, like you're a devil worshiper, and that I didn't get that. And I like really,
Right.
really appreciated
Yeah.
that experience. So that's why, like I said, we're like really still like very, very close now.
Oh,
But
good. Yeah.
yeah, it's been I've also had people, like I said, devil worshiper, I've had people say like, you're never gonna find a husband believing in that stuff. Like,
What? Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, like
Like,
people
just,
are really mean. Um,
yeah, that's like putting something on you. That's how I see that. Like, why would they say that? That's how. Maybe I shouldn't say stuff like that, but I don't like when people try to put stuff on other people like that. You know,
yeah,
especially something like your husband, your love life. Like, excuse me, wait a minute.
yeah. People can get real creative. And then like on the flip side, finding people in like the practice, they can be assholes.
Of course. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's like for me, my dating experience, I've gotten like polar opposites. Like I said, my friend I had like that great friend, like we're still close. Like he's like one of the only people that I've had like a very like positive experience with because I've met people in the practitioner and they basically kind of just they're like extremists in the practitioner, and they kind of like want you to be barefoot and pregnant eating berries in the yard.
Yeah,
And
wait. Like Hotep kind of the
yeah,
stereotypical
like,
Hotep, I guess. Not
yeah,
real. Oh my gosh.
yeah. So because it's like for me, yeah, I practice hoodoo, but um like okay, so when people first meet me, my persona, like how I present myself, I have locks, I kind of dress, kind of freely, like sometimes I wear crystals around my neck or whatever.
Okay.
I get oh, she must be, real spiritual, and she drank tea, and all that stuff, all that stuff is
Uh-huh.
true. However, I like to shake my ass at the club. Also,
Right. Yeah.
I like to go to parties and I like to dance and I like to have a good time, and I don't always want to be like, oh, love and light, and I don't always want to be like that. Sometimes I'd be like, yo, fuck these niggas. Like I
People think that's what it is. It's love and light.
yeah, and
So people don't know about like left-handed path stuff and stuff like that.
I'm like, it's not that. Like hoodoo is very much like whatever energy you putting out, you gonna get it back. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
like sometimes it's
I'm
not all
sorry.
like
So
life
the,
is love and life is very and there needs to be like duality, like balance.
mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
and so like when guys who are like in the practitioner, like they're like deep into it. Some people like I said, are extremists, so they're just like, oh, like you need to be in the house, you don't need to be listening to that kind of music and all the vibrations and da 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 da. And I'm like, look, bruh.
Really? The men? Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And this is in North Carolina? This is
Yep, North Carolina.
okay. Okay. Maybe maybe because I've been out of the country. I don't know. I don't know. I've been gone, so I'm kind of like I guess just kind of out of that scene of meeting new people and stuff like that and everything. Cuz I wasn't even around a lot of spiritual people for a few years, when the pandemic was going on and stuff.
Hmm.
Like, you could find somebody at an open mic. You could find, you could
Yeah.
go to African marketplace and you could find some people, but where I was, it wasn't any of that. So it was just like me. So that's okay. Okay. So they didn't want you listening to anything modern, basically. So like what you put on Cardi B and people would feel some type of way, like a
Yeah.
man would feel some type of way.
You listen to her, like that's such bad vibrations, and you listen to trap music or you listen to rap, like you need to listen to conscious rap and da da da. And I'm like, bruh, look,
Isn't that beginner? So were they beginners in the practice? You know what I mean?
we're like deep, like years, like longer than me, like, and
That's
I was
interesting.
like, and then I've run into people like with like my diet, like, oh, you need to be vegan, you need to be a raw vegan, and da 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 da. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I like vegan food. Most of the time, I really don't even eat like a lot of meat. Like, I look, to me, I can't give up seafood. I like shrimp. I'm from Maryland. I like crab legs. Like, I can't.
Can't give up chicken.
Like, I
Can't give
love
up
chicken.
chicken.
I'll be fine. I don't really eat pork like that. I don't really eat beef like that. Like, growing up, I didn't really eat that stuff. I just, growing up, I ate chicken, bison occasionally. And,
Oh wow. Listen, I
yeah,
don't think
no,
I
I love bison is really good. Like, but I grew up eating seafood, bison, and chicken. So, you know, I can give up the chicken and the bison, but I'm like seafood, no. But people will be like, oh, you need to be raw vegan, da da da. And I'm just like, look, I understand the benefits of of it. Like I've done my research. I was vegan for like a little under a year. Yeah, like,
okay.
but ultimately, I'm just like, look, if I know my body, so
Everybody, that's right. Everybody's body is different.
everybody's body is different. So, and I'm like, I like fruits. Like, I eat my fruits. I eat my veggies. I'm definitely, once I get a house and I start living in this apartment, I want to grow my own garden so I can have like the stuff in the backyard. But don't tell me how to eat. Don't tell me how to live my life. Like, I'm already living my life. Like, so I don't
So
need.
they're judging like how Christians judge, but they're spiritualists doing the
Yeah,
judgment thing.
yeah. So
Okay.
that's like I've that's why I say like I run into like both extremists. I'm like, you're either like
Yeah.
a or like Christian in the church, or you're like hardcore, just like deep into spirituality, and you just feel like anything outside of that is like negative. And I can't. I'm not that. Like I'm very
They
much.
trying to polygamy and all that stuff too. Like like you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff? Or are they trying to do like I don't know. Because I see a lot of the spiritual men trying to do the polygamy thing. No judgment with that. That's their prerogative. But I'm just wondering kind of like the type of extremists that you ran into, you know.
No, I've ran into some polygamists. I ran into people. Yeah, it's been a. I've run into a lot of like, I'll have you and my other girl and da 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 da. And I'm just like, no judgment. That works for you. That works for you. But like usually, I never, because I have friends that are like into polygamy, and I feel like they're like genuinely into it. If that makes
Mm,
any sense.
yeah, it does. It does.
And then you have people that are kind of just like, I'm just doing this because I just want to cheat, and like I'm not really into it, but it's just like a cop out. Like
Mhm.
that's what I've run into. Like it seems just like, oh yeah, I just I'm just doing it because this it sounds cool. So, and I just
But
want
it's
to
a lot
teach.
of responsibility. You have to take care of those women, and you have
Yeah,
to take care of their offspring. You have to be very responsible if you're going to do something like that. So I
yeah,
don't know why they would think if you want to just have fun, you can just, be single. Like, you know, if you don't want the responsibility, you can be single and truthful about wanting to be single and wanting to, try the field if that's what you want to do. But
exactly.
yeah, but pulling women in and you're not gonna take care of them. I'll leave the finances out of it. I'll just say emotionally. Like
Yeah,
the emotional time that you gotta put into a relationship. That's not really sustainable if you're not willing to do that. And if you don't have the emotional space to do that. That's just how I feel about it. And I know, like, look, one man is enough for me. Like, that's a lot for me to take care of. Like his emotional needs and stuff like that. That's a lot for me. So you got to know what you can handle.
you want all these girls. I'm like, women are emotional creatures, and I'm like, you got to deal with all these women's personalities,
Yes.
and they people be getting this stuff where they just think like, well, maybe if I could just do this, like, the other person will blah blah blah. People don't be in it for the right reasons, and then that's how people's feelings
Mhm.
get hurt. That's how, like, unfortunate things happen. People get jealous, and then you start
Yeah.
dangerous and all this other stuff, and I'm just like, no. No, because humans are humans, and
At the end of the day, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So, I guess, do you have any resources that you would suggest to people starting out? Any maybe like books or YouTube videos, documentaries, anything like that?
The way I started out was, so her Instagram name is it's Jujubae. ITSJUJUBAE. It's she's from
Oh,
Baltimore. She's from Maryland. Like, that's I
okay.
started following her Instagram, and she has a podcast. So I would say start there. She's a wonderful resource. I've gotten to reading from her
Oh, yeah.
before. Yeah,
That's
she's
cool.
a wonderful resource. So I would start there because that's where I started.
Okay. Okay. Anything else you would like to add? Like, any red flags, any white flags, just anything about the practice, the culture. Um, yeah.
I think once you get started into it, it can definitely enhance your life. And I'll also say that once you start getting into it, like, maybe you'll see, like, you might pick up, like, I don't want to say pick up spiritual gifts because some people already have it. Um, but definitely if you start into it, you might notice some things. Like, I know for me, like I said, since I was little, I've always like had like supernatural stuff like around me or like happening to me. My mom used to she used to have a pendant that she would like ask questions to when I was little, like
Wow.
stuff or whatever. And I really wish I could, like, when she was alive, I could have like really like asked her about it. But like, as a kid, you just kind of, I was just like, oh, she's okay, like that's what she's doing.
Hmm.
um but I would definitely say, your spiritual, whatever spiritual good that you do have, it'll probably be heightened. Like, you'll probably start to like notice stuff more. I'm like clairaudient, like I be hearing stuff, and
That's cool.
there's another Claire's whatever, but it's like you like feel stuff. Um, so like sometimes I'll like feel like if my mom's spirit is around or whatever, and even before I practiced hoodoo, when my mother, the night before my mother died, I knew she was going to die because
Mm.
her she came to me in a dream, and it was like really really weird. Um, like, we were in, oh, this is my cat.
Hey.
um she had came to me in a dream. We were in like in a white room, and like she's like, I just have to go. Like, I'm sorry, I have to go. And like, I
Oh.
remember waking up like really like heavy, like, and that's the only word I can describe like how I feel. I just felt heavy,
Mm.
like, and I think a couple hours later, my dad had called me. He was like, yeah, like mom passed, and then I was just like, well, no, he called me. And I think the first thing I said, I was like, Mom passed. And he was like, yeah, how did you know? And I was just like, well, she told me last night. And then like another experience I had, my dad's mom, she had died a couple years ago, like in 2021. Yeah, 2021. And the night before she died, or that morning, I knew she died because again, I felt really heavy. Like I woke up feeling heavy, and I was like, somebody passed. And then like I kind of like sat there, and I was like, it's my grandmother. And then my dad called, and I was like, Granny passed, and he was like, yeah. So it definitely will like enhance like your spiritual gifts, and like you just gotta, I guess, get supernatural things like maybe start happening or whatever. But the sense of community that you get, like once you find like your tribe, or like I said, just people that you can talk to about it, um and be around, it'll get a lot easier.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for being open just to talk to me
Of
and
course.
educate me because, yeah, I had heard about hoodoo, but for some reason I wasn't drawn to it. But for some reason, when I saw that it was Hoodoo Heritage Month, I started doing more research and stuff. And I said, well, let me reach out to you and, hear what you have to say and everything. And a lot of the things you were saying, I realized, oh, I was doing in my spiritual practice, which is crazy. Just like you were saying in the beginning, that a lot of Black people are already doing. But just thank you for enlightening me and whoever else, gets to see your content, your video. And yeah, yeah. So I don't really know how to end, honestly, but
Thank you for having me. I haven't really talked about it, like I guess like openly like this ever. So it was definitely like a learning experience, but it was dope.
thank you. Oh, cool. Yay. I'm glad it was good for you. And
Yeah.
it just, I think, like, I don't know if it seemed healing for you, but it was definitely healing for me too, you know? And I
Yeah.
feel like, it's so tough to go back into like African American history. You know what I mean? Like our family, how do I put this? Like it seems sometimes like our history can be really like cut off, or our culture can be kind of cut off, if that makes sense. And so it's nice to talk about history and traditions and just things that are for us, you know?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah, because sometimes we don't always get that. And so I'm just really grateful for that, for sure. And to be able to share that with you, especially since we both went to the same HBCU and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I hope more, other people who are see indigenous to America, melanated and indigenous to America, get some healing from this too. That's my intention for sure. And it sheds some light and maybe makes them want to ask more questions in their family also, and learn about their roots also as well. So yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. This is definitely like very, very healing just to like talk about it, because I don't think I've talked about it in like quite a long time. So
Quite a long, okay, like years.
not years, but like
Okay, good. That's too long. Okay, so I'm gonna press stop recording. Wait 1 second.